want to note that it has been a very active 2 days of discussion, very rich presentations from very knowledgeable presenters, knowledgeable from the perspective of the experience that they have over the years put together, but knowledgeable also because of the many interactions that characterize this industry. And as we do so, closing this particular session and knowing that we will have other sessions in other countries as well, which will seek to continue to bolster the ideas and get them implemented. We hope that we can say we went to Zimbabwe and this is what we came up with, and that in another 2 years we can come back to Zimbabwe, not to have exactly the same debate, but to be able to make a review of the work that we will have done over the next 24 months to enable us to say we were able to convert into reality what we discussed as a team. Ladies and gentlemen, my deepest gratitude goes to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Robert Gabriel Mugabe, for officiating at the second Zimbabwe Diamond International Conference. I say to him, his wise words and honest counsel will forever be cherished by us in the diamond community, but also by Zimbabweans in general. I also want to express gratitude to the Minister of South Africa, who was here with us and spoke to us about the Africa mining vision and what we ought to do to implement the Africa mining vision. I listened carefully when the debate about defending your ideas with budgets was taking place in the last session. And I remembered vividly a discussion that we had concerning the Africa mining vision, where we asked for institutional capacity to be set up to drive the Africa mining vision. And before we knew it, the Africa mining vision itself, with its various components of value addition, beneficiation, protection of the environment, participation of the local communities, had been set aside. And in it were inserted issues of governance, issues of human rights, issues of, and so on and so forth. And when we asked the question why that had been done, we were told that generous financing had been provided by certain countries, and they felt that this is the direction that we were supposed to follow. And so we said to the Secretariat, but why? Oh yeah, because you, our leaders, you always form institutions and you never fund them. So we go looking for funding, and when we are given funding, we are also told what to do by those that fund us. So such is the nature of the debate. I think, as was discussed here, it is absolutely, absolutely important that if we are going to implement the ideas in the mining sector that we have discussed, in the diamond sector that we must back them with financial resources so that they continue to have our ideas. But if we let them to be funded by somebody else, then they will contain the ideas, direction of those that fund them. So we must continue to fund them, and I am happy that that discussion came out as it did indeed. And in saying so, I want to extend special thanks to Minister Ramatlodi, the Minister of Mineral Resources for the Republic of South Africa. I want to also express our gratitude to the Democratic Republic of the Congo for the representation sent to us by the minister and the presentation made by them. I want to express gratitude to the Republic of Botswana and the wise counsel that comes out of Botswana. And I want to say that Botswana has had a long history of diamond mining, and I think they've put together long years of experience. And there is a lot that we in the Southern African region can learn from Botswana. And I was quite touched by the strong statements that came from the presenter about us working together, working together, working together. There is no substitute for that. The Botswana's neighbors will never change. Zimbabwe's neighbors will never change. It does not matter how many generations we go through. Zimbabwe will always be a neighbor to Botswana. It will always be a neighbor to South Africa. And therefore, it makes much greater sense for us to be working together. It does not matter how much the French do not like the British, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. When it comes to matters of international positions, they will take common positions in respect of what happens elsewhere in the world. And we have that experience in respect of Zimbabwe, what they did. And so, it is important for us to foster the relationships between ourselves. And I want to thank you for that. The representative of the Congo spoke about the glorious, really glorious days of Mutapa and reminded us as Zimbabweans that we come from a generation of glorious people. We come from a generation of successful people, and we have no reason whatsoever for not being successful ourselves. And we can pick it up and be successful. And I want to thank the representative from the Congo for making that statement to us. Namibia, a very close, hard-working friend of Zimbabwe, and particularly the person who sits there, the commissioner. I don't know much about him as a person, but I've met him on a number of occasions. But more importantly, I've met people who know what he has done for Zimbabwe in respect of helping Zimbabwe go through the difficulties. And I want to thank him for coming to Zimbabwe and for coming to support us. This conference would have been an African conference had it not been for the strong participation that we received from our international partners, from partners outside the continent of Africa. People who, when you listen to them, sound very African. And as I listened to some of them, I said, these ones may be Arabs by birth, but really African by character. Because you can see their strong sentiments about the desire to support Africa, to stand with Africa whatever the circumstances, to take very, very strong positions about Africa. And for Zimbabwe, we can never express our gratitude enough to them. Not limited to these, but I want to mention specifically Mr. Eli Isakov, the honorary life president of the World Diamond Council, WDC. I want to also mention Mr. Gaetano Cavaleri, the president of CIBJO. And I want to mention His Excellency Ahmed bin Sulayem, people that I have learned to interact with and have developed, I think, strong relationships with, and I hope that we can continue to build those relationships. I also want to express gratitude to Ari Epstein, CEO of Antwerp World Diamond Center, Mr. Ernest Blom, an African, but the president of the World Federation of Diamond Bosses, Mr. Alex Popov, a Russian by birth, but international really by character. And I want to thank him also for his participation at this meeting. He raised, he's the chairman of the World Diamond Mark Foundation. And I did say to you that we are also trying to establish the Zimbabwe mark. And we are in full discussion to do that. And I want to express gratitude for all the information that has come from these international colleagues of ours. I would also want to thank those that participated on the panel discussions. And under the title, From Zimbabwean Mines to the World, which featured Dr. Robert Mhlanga, chairman of Mbada Diamonds, Mr. Faraim Tamangira, legal advisor, Professor Guj Ganga, permanent secretary to the ministry, and Abich Kani, the first chairman of the KPCS. These have played and continue to play an important role to the success of Zimbabwe's diamond industry. And quite a number of these will be off to KPC tomorrow, again to be defending these positions. And I know that a lot of our international colleagues also are on their way to the KPC, and the game is played there. What I want to say is that the KPC has very specific responsibilities that are targeted to ensure that we have clean diamonds. There are other institutions in the world that do certain things. The United Nations has got a human rights body to protect the rights of everybody, irrespective of whether they are in the mining sector or they are legal practitioners or they are financing or military people. That United Nations body has that overall responsibility to ensure that human rights are observed, and we will support them to achieve those objectives. The African Union is also a commission that has got that responsibility working together with the United Nations, but at a continental level to do that. But to say that the KPC must now take the responsibilities of all these institutions and do them ourselves, this is where we have clashed with a number of our international partners, because we don't believe that we are best structured to do it. But we are best structured to look after diamonds. That's what we are best structured. And so we will continue to do that, and we will continue to maintain that position. And we have been discussing with colleagues, and that is the position we will continue to take. I also want to thank Mr. Shaim Evan Zoa, president of TASI Limited, for his unique skills in moderating open and lively discussions. And I think we all saw him in action. The ability to move from one temperament to another, to feel highly passionate about something and sensitive about it, and yet in the next moment to drive yourself into a mode that is able to moderate everybody else, I think is a characteristics that many of us do not have. Because sometimes we get so emotional that for the next 2 hours we're so emotional we can't moderate anybody else. And so for that skill and for that God-given characteristic, we thank you. But we also thank you. We also thank you for your very passionate views about Zimbabwe in particular, and Africa in general. We thank you very much for those. They give us, sometimes when we think we have no right to defend ourselves in that manner, but when we see others defending us in that manner, we are elevated in that manner, and we also take those very strong positions. Before I go to the ISO certified Master of Ceremonies, I want to express gratitude to Peter. Peter, I thought you were simply the chairman of the Dubai Diamond Exchange. I didn't know that you had such strong feelings about Africa, about Zimbabwe, and that you have that ability to speak so directly and without let, and say what your mind is. I think the one thing, if you will excuse me, the one thing that President Mugabe is hated for, but also liked for equally too, is that he is able to say what he thinks directly, without let or hindrance. And as we sit on the sidelines, we say about him, he has said what I would have wanted to say, but did not have the guts to say. And many people are grateful to having somebody who can say the kind of things that they would want to say, but would not say in public. And we feel grateful. And Peter, I think you have that characteristic of being able to say things as they are. And I think you must keep it up. People will hurt you, obviously. There are others who don't want such direct statements. But tough, the world is like that. The world is God is so generous. He gave us people who don't say what they want to say, people who say what they want to say, people who will ask other people to say what they want to say. And that's how we are created. And we accept it as it is, and we must be grateful to God for that. There are those whose names I have not mentioned. I thank you also for organizing, for doing all the logistical work to organize this. There are those that I have not mentioned by name. I want you all to know that this conference would not be from here. These people who are sitting here providing us with the technical science and technology basis for our operations. Everybody who has worked, those that have cleaned this place this morning, because if it was not cleaned in the morning, nobody would have wanted to come here. And we are grateful to everybody who has done everything to ensure that this meeting becomes a success. Vamanyika, I don't know what God was trying to do with you. But certainly, he had a place somewhere in the corner. I don't know whether it was at the head table or at the back or in the front rows. But certainly, he has given you certain very amiable attributes. An ability to interact and communicate with people, an ability to entertain situations which would otherwise be hard to entertain, because you need that in deliberations, in discussions. When you have serious discussions, you must have somebody who will lighten, give you lighter moments. And I want to express gratitude to Nawamanyika for his ability to take us through this meeting and take us through this meeting successfully. I thank you, and I thank you most sincerely and profoundly. I am a little bit worried by the fact that you were offered a few jobs from many parts of the world by the leadership sitting here. But I want to remind you that since the president became the chairman of the SADC region, by virtue of those powers bestowed on the president by the SADC region, I also became the chairman of the SADC Ministers of Mines, and I have got the power of veto to stop anybody who may want to go anywhere to do anything before they do enough for Zimbabwe. So I want to thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much, but I will close this sadly. Sadly, I will close this meeting on a very sad note. Last night, the permanent secretary, Professor Gujganga, lost his wife. And this morning, it has just been a very difficult balancing act. He said to us, don't say it, we want the conference to be successful, and we don't want it to dampen the spirits. And so we kept in our hearts that which was difficult to keep, but it is sad, such is life. Things happen. God, we have our plans, but God has his own plan. And his plan came to fruition, and he executed it at a time when we thought our plans were much more superior. I want to say to Professor Gujganga that on your behalf we are with him in his time of trial and tribulation. I want to also say that those of us who will be able to go and sympathize and empathize with him, we will be very grateful to get that support. So, ladies and gentlemen, 2014, 2016 is coming. The tradition must be sustained, and therefore we will meet again somewhere in Zimbabwe in 2016. Thank you very much. Go well, travel safely. God bless you.